I'm going to open up by saying that like there is still a possibility that season 3 is happening. Obviously, there's always a possibility, but I think specifically, a lot of people lost morale after the We Play You stream or tournament happened, and there was no announcements or anything of that nature in regards to season 3 DLC. But I mean, we do have Evo coming up in the summer. That is a little far ways off, and it's already been 4 months since Huang Sung Young was released. So that does present roadblocks in and of itself, but the world is opening back up. So I think that there is always a distinct possibility. What are your thoughts on the possibilities of season 3 and why, Rich?
Okay, so just to refresh, the We Play You thing, that was the fighting game. Was that the Japanese fighting game thing? Or like
it was a tournament.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah. And
did they
Soul
even announce
Calibur,
anything like there for any
I don't
other
think
games?
so. No, it was on Twitch, and Soul Calibur was featured heavily prominently.
Okay. Yeah, I still think it has a shot because it's like, okay, so season 1 was announced obviously when the game first came out. Season 2 was announced. Was it at Evo, or am I misremembering?
No, I believe it was Evo.
Okay. So I personally feel like, I mean, I know, yeah, like you said, Evo is, like it has been a while since, we got Huang back in December, and it's been like 4 months, and then Evo was like July, right? So that's another few months. So it is a while, but I do think it just seems like Evo is kind of the place they like to announce the new seasons for this game. And
especially,
I do think
Evo is free this year and it's online. So it's not behind a paywall. So that's even more of a positive for it.
Exactly.
By the way, Rich, can you answer Rage and Ningen's question real quick? Can you see the chat?
Oh, actually, no, I don't see anything in the chat.
Oh, okay. So maybe it's just me for the StreamYard chat.
Wait. So. I see comments. I see some stuff in the comments.
Yeah, go ahead.
What was his question?
It says, they said that something was delayed. So maybe it was season 3.
Delayed. Maybe it was season 3 itself that got delayed. That's a possibility. I mean, and again, I was just going to say, it's like, I know I'm a broken record with this, and I know we're all so tired of hearing it, but I guess the pandemic has slowed a lot of stuff down, so that might have kind of just throw off their schedule so much. Anyway.
The problem with the schedules, though, is if they have a specific roadmap that was already pre-approved by Bandai Namco to release on schedule, they have to apply for a new reapproval. And and it happens too with the licensing with the guest character. So if the guest character was supposed to be coming out on a certain specific month and they use up that license, they have to reapply for a new license for that as well.
I mean, I guess the only thing I could say is, we still have those code names that are, as far as we know, in the files, unless they were removed in an update. If they were removed in an update, then that's bad. But as far as I know, they're still there.
They're just code placeholders. So they've been in there since season 2, I believe. But even if a season 3 doesn't happen, like it'll still stay in the code. They're not going to remove it from the code because it's not active HTML. Like there's nothing active in that actually affects the gameplay or the game itself. It's just a placeholder code for where that line of code is going to go when the characters are released. So I don't think, even if they do remove it, like I just think it'll be a waste of resources if they tried to remove it for whatever reason. I don't know if that would affect it at all, but that is still a good point that like the codes are still in there. I think some of the positives that we still are pointing towards still having it is the lack of communication on Twitter. So I had lack of communication against them in the first point, but I think it actually now seems to, there's something working behind the scenes, because I feel like if it wasn't going to happen, they wouldn't say it's canceled because it hasn't been announced. So the only reason we know about it again is because of the data mines. But I feel like they would come out and say like, thank you everyone for supporting Soul Calibur 6. We are going to continue to update the game with patches and things of that nature. Look forward for future announcements, and the soul still burns or something like that. They wouldn't say that it's over, but they would unofficially say that it's over.
I feel like, I feel like a lot of fighting games, like it's very rare they just want to come out and say like, yeah, it's over, especially some that I know. NetherRealm Studios.
Solar for 95 says, I do wish Bandai Namco and Project Soul would be more transparent about things. Definitely. Again, I don't know like what's stopping them from just like letting people know that they're still working on the game. Like that's to me, that's like, they do this thing where if you're on Twitter or Facebook or anything, every birthday for one of the characters, they release like a bunch of info about like character designs and actual info about that certain character and everything like that. But besides doing stuff and just retweeting other Bandai Namco projects, they haven't said anything. Like Okubo even and Masuyama, like they're just radio silent. I have no idea. They congratulated the winner of the Soul Calibur tournament on We Play You, but that's about it.
Yeah, it seems like I noticed that with the bigger companies, they don't want to communicate as much. But I feel like smaller companies, they do want to communicate a bit more. I guess it's just because it's less people, so they can. I don't know. But then again, I think more people would be able to answer the questions more. I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't understand what's the deal with the communication. I think that's the easiest aspect they can have is just like coordinate with the social media coordinator and release some kind of statement like the soul still burns, like we're working on future updates and patches, even something like that. Because it's not like they're going to shut off support for the game altogether, even if we don't get a season 3. Like, we're going to have updates and patches. We might even get costume parts and things of that nature, just like thrown in there for free. They've done stuff like that in the past. Yeah, there are a few positives about like the lack of communication though, because it can mean like as a small team that they are, Project Soul is, they could just be straight up working on stuff. And they don't really owe us an explanation of like working or not working. You want to read David's comment?
Yeah, sure. All right. Dave King says, I have said this before, but remember, they already gave closure in the last patch with Nightmare's extra episode.
The problem with that, though, is that it's ambiguous. It's not very conclusive because it says to be continued, which is the first time that they've done that in any of the seasons. So it can be implied that to be continued until Soul Calibur 7, but it can also be to be continued until the next season.
Well, here's the thing. I definitely agree. That would probably be something we were going to talk about in the why it's not happening.
Yeah,
but I think that could also be taken as that because you know how in like the story mode there's like the timeline. Well, maybe like if we did get more characters, their stories would just not progress past that timeline. Maybe that's all it means is that like this is the farthest in Soul Calibur 6 we're going with the timeline, but there could still be more stories to tell that happen like before this part at least, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean, even if we don't have a payable season pass, it doesn't mean they're not going to add stuff like that anyway. Like, we could get some kind of contextual stuff.
And Solar Flare said, even if we don't get a season 3, it's still likely to give some creation parts. I'd imagine doing something like that would take much less resources and make him a character from the ground up.
I'm sure they would. I'm sure they would. They would give us patches and updates that actually have the new stuff in there. They would still probably give us stuff. Raging Nigan says, I mean, they can go with other characters for extra story in season 3. It doesn't have to be Nightmare. No, he's talking about Nightmare's story specifically was the conclusion of the setup for Soul Calibur 7. So it said to be continued, as in we'll see you next time. He's not saying specifically because it's Nightmare's story. It's specifically because they've never said to be continued before. So that implies that there's a conclusion to the setup, the prequel for Soul Calibur 7.
I also had another idea. This would kind of suck, but if they added more characters, but they don't have a Soul Chronicle.
I mean, I can see them doing that, and especially with who's allotted for the cast of season 3. We're setting up for the Swords and the Shepherds, right? For the storyline of the Akatsuki and Soul Calibur for Soul Calibur 7. So Rock and Aeon and Yoon Song arguably wouldn't have anything to do with that storyline anyway, because those are always characters that do things on their own and they're not usually part of the main story. So they might just release them without a Soul Chronicle. I can see that happening.